Welcome to Kicking It Local. I am your host, Johnny Keko, and this podcast is all about the football community right here in South Australia. And today is my part 2 chat with Simon Catanzaro, and we get to dive into his coaching career, which saw him coaching at Adelaide United, both in the W League and also their youth teams as well, which saw him travel to Barcelona where he fell in love and brought some great memories in his coaching career and also some dark moments for himself and his family during the pandemic. We're going to be diving all through that in today's episode, but if you haven't caught up with part 1 just yet, make sure to go back and listen to that now, or if you have, here's a quick refresher.
It was funny because I'd actually, I can say this now, but I was actually heading to Millwall. Yeah, I was heading to Millwall as a 17, 18-year-old with a colleague of mine in the New South Wales Institute of Sport, Liam Austin. I'd saved all this money and was about to head overseas, and then Graham Arnold and Ian Crook were at a game and went out, invited me out the first year when they were already in the season and exploded into the National League when they did come. I went out and trained with them a few times, and I'll never forget, after one session, I just went out to train and see what it was like, just to be respectful, I guess, because I know Graham Arnold was a famous Socceroo then too, and just finished playing. And Robbie Slater was in the team, and there was an array of Socceroos, Robbie Ennis. So I thought I'd go out, and I'll never forget, after 45 minutes into the session, he just looked at me and said, you're coming back here, you're coming back to training. Well, we were allocated players at the time. I think at the time I had Robbie Slater as one of my players. So I was cleaning his undies and boots every day. But to be fair, Robbie Slater comes across, Bulldog comes across as this real arrogant, bloke that not many people like, but he's one of the most compassionate and kind guys when you get to know him. He's just got white line fever, and every Christmas, I can promise you, he looked after me because he had sponsors galore, and I used to go home with boxes and bags of feeler and Kappa gear from all these sponsorships. So I was working for Just Jeans, part-time, then went into full-time so I could manage my hours with playing in the summer league back in Sydney. And I got a phone call from Adelaide Olympic. I'm not going to say who it was, but they said, look, would you be interested in coming to Adelaide Olympic? Robbie DeTroyer was coaching the team at the time. We'd love to meet with you tonight. This is at 12 o'clock on a Monday. We'd love to meet with you tonight. We're going to put you on a plane at 3 o'clock in 3 hours. Can you get to the airport at 3 o'clock? We'll have someone pick you up in Adelaide at 5 o'clock and take you straight to Ferreton Park, which is now Ferreton Park, which I know, to come for training and just meet the guys and see if you're interested in signing for us.
From there, you decided to get into coaching?
Yeah, very quickly after. And I'd had an injury at Campbelltown, which pretty much, I'd done my knee, had a knee reconstruction, and I really found it hard to get back to playing at the level I wanted to. I spent a year at Adelaide Comets, who were in the second division. I played under Barney Smith, who's like one of my best mates, or my best mate. So that was quite interesting. But it was good to have a year there to get myself back in some capacity. But I was never going to reach the heights of, I was 30 at the time, or 29 or 30 or something at the time, and I thought this is the time I want to get into coaching.
It's pretty early.
It is, but ever since Graham Arnold coached me, and it's a true story, I had a black book from when I used to write stuff that Arnie, some of the drills and sessions he put together, and the stuff I liked and the stuff I didn't like. And then when I went to Holland to go to Eagles, I did the same thing, and because he played in Holland for a long time, so I was trying to match him up. So I started writing down all these drills with a pen in this book, my little black book of all the stuff that I like doing and how I can incorporate that to when I coach one day and in my philosophy and methodology. So I started at a real young age actually starting to think, I might become a coach. I think I'll be a better coach than I am player. I mean, people can say what they want about it, but 10 years down the track now, I mean, I guess my coaching career's been okay. It's been eventful.
Yep.
But yeah, after that year at Comets, I went to Parry Hills and took over the club when they got relegated. And my first year of coaching, we got promoted. We won the league, got promoted, and I got the club to a Federation Cup final, which is like the FFA Cup final equivalent right now, which we've just seen Adelaide City beat Modbury in. And same scenario, Adelaide City were the big wigs in the top league, which they are right now, and Modbury were the big wigs in the second division, which they are right now. Metro at that stage were the big wigs, and they were in the grand final of the cup, and we were the big wigs of the second division. We'd beaten some teams along the way, Blue Eagles and Adelaide City, Damien Morris, Adelaide City, with Ricardo da Silva, Nick Boudin, Nicky Orr, Joel Allwright. As a second division club. Yeah, as a second division club, we got through to the grand final. This is all in my first year of coaching, and we lost the cup final 3-1. But it was a fantastic achievement. I think I just put the writing on the wall then that I might be able to make something out of this coaching caper.
And then the following year, you went to the women's NTC. So you're at women's football now, but that's where you first experience in women's football came. What was that like to go from men's football to women's?
Well, it was I spent 3 or 4 great years at Parra Hills, but I just knew it was time for me to go on. You know, I mean, as a coach, if you've got to be honest with yourself and do the right thing by the club. And I felt like, you know, the boys at that time at Parra Hills needed a different voice. And Ross Aloisi at the time was here in the States still, and he was running the women's program. And I was speaking to him at licenses, and he's saying, look, you've got to get involved, Kat, in the women's game. We need coaches like you. I think you'd enjoy it. And I'd seen Paul Pezos had started to move over there as well. So, you know, I had an opportunity to go and work with the program. This is when Ayrton Andrioli was the technical director. So I finished up at Parra Hills, and I was going to take a bit of a break. But, you know, a month or 2 later, I found myself helping out with the NTC program. Chelsea Daubers, Emily Condons, Mallory Mullins, really good mix. And a lot of the girls that are playing now in the local league are really probably one of the best groups of female footballers that have come through this generation. That's probably credit to Ross and definitely to Pez. Who had that group, you know, and you sort of took that program over for about 6 or 7 months, and from that came an opportunity to be an assistant coach in the W League with the Adelaide United team.
The Adelaide United experience would have been a big one for you to be a part of the Women's League back then. What was that like to be a part of now a professional outfit? Yeah. I know the women's game is still at that point was still a little while away from where it is now. But what was that like to be? Oh,
it was great. Ross had moved on to bigger and better things. He was the head coach, and so had Pez, and they'd brought in Jamie Harnwell, the federation, who used to run the W League, the Lady Reds as they'll call it, and Jamie's a big name in the old NSL and some of the A League as well, and was starting his coaching caper. He just finished coaching Perth Glory. So he came in and he's seen me. I didn't know Jamie apart from playing against him in the old NSL, you know. I just knew he was a legend over in Perth. And he goes, Kat, you're looking after the NTC program. There's this, you know, alignment with the NTC, and do you want to come on board and, you know, let's get to know each other and be an assistant coach? And I'm like, well, I'm going to take this opportunity. And from there, I just grew and had a great season with Jamie, and, you know, we became good mates and got to learn a lot about what it was, women's football at a professional level, because we had a few imports coming in. And so I really enjoyed it for 1 year, but then I just needed a break. And Jamie had moved on after 1 or 2 years, went back to Perth, and they brought in Huskinderovic. Hustler came in and out of the blue asked me to come back in because I knew the girls and I knew the program. And the second season was really good. It opened up a lot of doors.
And I also saw you move into the LA United youth team as well as coach. What was that like?
I was coaching the... I think they're the under-18s, or I think they play in the reserves competition in the local league. So I coached them for 6 or 7 games. And look, by Huss bringing me back in to help with the women's, there was an opportunity to take that team. And Huss said to me, because I didn't know many of the boys at that stage, he goes, you've got a good group coming out of Carl Viet's NTC program that are coming in. And I'm looking and going, oh, okay, there could be a good opportunity. It's Adelaide United still, and, you know, it's the big boys, you know, big girls club, Adelaide United. I want to stay involved. So I had this team, and I had Guillermo's son was in my team, and Jai King and Pacific was in the team. And I've started training going, oh gosh, this is a good group. Yeah. And from that program, I mean, I got the opportunity to go coach a team through the previous owners in Spain at the MIC tournament, the Mediterranean International Cup. And that was in Barcelona. And that's soon where I fell in love with Barcelona. I got on the phone to my wife when I was fortunate enough by the previous owners to be coaching one of the under-16 academy teams. I said to Nadine, I said, we want to go on an adventure the next couple of years. Barcelona is amazing. Yeah. So that tournament finished, and unfortunately Adelaide United moved me on, which happens as a coach. Yeah. Like I said to you, either you get sacked or you resign. There's no red carpet out as a coach. You don't get, you don't get this, all these, you're the best, all this type of blah blah blah. You either get moved on or you move on yourself. There's no in between as a coach. But it was a great experience. 6 months later, I took Nadine back, my wife, to Barcelona, and said, we plan to go for a little trip on ourselves. And she loved the city too. So we planned there for about 18 months to 2 years to find schools for our son. And I really wanted an opportunity to just see what it was like coaching in Europe. So it all started back there from the Adelaide United opportunity. Yeah. So what did because Guillermo Amor was there at Adelaide United, Barcelona legend. He was there around the time you were at the club. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and you coached his son. So Did he have any influence in you going there, or was it just
Absolutely, he had no influence. No. I think it was the city of Barcelona I fell in love with. I fell in love with the lifestyle after a couple of weeks of coaching there. I fell in love with the city. It's one of those things, and at that stage, it still is the football mecca.
Yeah.
And Guillermo as the head coach. I mean, he used to come and watch every morning. This guy's living in Barcelona now, knowing how big he is. You don't understand. People in South Australia or Australia don't realise how big he is until you experience when you mention his name over there. But he'd be at the parks on the backfield watching his son train at 7:30 in the morning while I was coaching him. So I've got a Barcelona legend, head coach of Adelaide United, watching his son under me, and, on the backfields and the dog at Angle Park dog track in the background, and I'm just thinking to myself, gosh, this guy, I'm really nervous watching the senior coach, but he didn't say much to me, but he always came over and said, he always gave me a few words, like a good session, or he was happy with the way I was coaching the boys, but he wouldn't make it obvious.
Yeah,
come and just do it very discreetly, which is very Guillermo. That obviously gives you a bit of a boost too. So. It was a really good experience.
And over there, you did end up finding a job after a little while at the coaching the under-18s team at Captiva Sports Academy.
Yeah, so when that finished and we'd planned to move overseas, I wanted to challenge myself. It was pretty easy for the last 10 years, 15 years playing and coaching here in Adelaide. So an Australian boy trying to go coach in Spain is like a Spanish coach coming here and trying to coach AFL. Really, I can't use any other analogy than that. I got laughed at. They took the absolute piss out of me. Which like, who are you? What are you doing? Oh yeah, soccer kangaroo and all this type of like it was really tough. But I knew it was going to be tough. I'd mentally prepared myself that it was going to be not easy to find work. And I just had someone come across my resume. At an academy, and they rang me, and it was an academy that just by absolute sheer coincidence was in the same province that I was living in Barcelona, called Sant Cugat. And he sent me an email back saying, can you come in for an interview down into the city to our offices? We'd like to just talk about your resume. And Ruben Martinez, who was the technical director, called me in, and he spoke a bit of English, which was really good because it's an English-speaking academy. Yeah. He called me in and he goes, I've seen your resume and you coached Adelaide United, Guillermo. And I said, well, Guillermo was the senior coach. I didn't really have much interaction with him, but his son was in my team. And he goes, oh, I played with him at Barcelona. I'm like, oh, really? He goes, yeah. So anyway, it just started like that conversation. Like I didn't use Guillermo's name or anything, nothing like that. I would never, because it wouldn't be right, because I didn't know Guillermo that well. I just had his son in my team, and Gulli was a very good, is a very good player. But he just went on a hunch. He goes, I'm going on a hunch here. I like what I see in your resume. Then we started speaking football and methodology and all this. And he goes, we align with how the principles of this academy is going to work. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to come in and be an assistant coach. And I got my foot in the door. He goes, we can only pay you €200 a month, which is about $300 a month. Yep. Cash. Jeez. To come in and be an assistant coach at this full-time academy. And the wages over there are terrible, which I soon found out. So €200 a month, and I'm like, I'm going to take. I said to Nadine, I said to my wife, I'm going to take this opportunity. Like, we'd already set ourselves up financially enough to be over there, and knew that it was going to take a bit of time. But so, I'm going to take this opportunity for sure. And no word of a lie, the very first session we've gone in for a methodology training, and it's in Catalan and it's in Spanish, and this is 3 months after me being there and getting a lot of knocks, like rejections and all this, and in English as well, because everyone, it was an English-speaking academy. We finished this methodology session, and I'm getting to know the other 4 or 5 coaches, and I'm walking back to my car, and the coach that I was going to be assistant to says, I can't do this, to me. He goes, I can't do this. I still play in the local, like the Catalan league, which is like the NPL equivalent. Because I can't do this. It's too much commitments. And I said, well, I'm here to help you. It's okay. I live close, and I can help with the sessions if you can't be here. I understand how the sessions are going to be and all that. He's like, yeah, okay. And then the next thing I know, that afternoon, I've got a phone call saying the coaches walked, not even after starting the job. He says it's too much. And he goes, we're left in a position where we've got no coach, Simon. So he called me into the residence where the players all started rocking up from all over the world. Yep. And I remember going into one of the rooms with him, and he said, well, how would you feel about taking over the senior role instead of being an assistant coach? Obviously, we'll give you a proper salary now. And I hadn't even started the job yet. And I'm like, well, I said, Ruben, for sure, I'll take this opportunity. So there I went, and took over, like it was just whirlwind. So I've taken over this team that all these players were coming from all over the world that had trialled and sent their applicants and resumes through. So they've picked this team of under 18s. The academy had 2 teams.
Yep.
Under 18s and under 16s, and I got the under 18s team. So they started arriving from Mexico and Brazil and India and Thailand, and my captain, who's from Ukraine, amazing player. They all started arriving in because they live in the residence, like the Australian Institute of Sport, brand new residence, cafeteria, football, like the ovals there, not a psychologist, nutritionist, the whole lot. And so I've just started to get to know the players straight away. And after 1 or 2 weeks, we're training, full time, and the boys are getting to know each other too. And when I'm on the training field, we're doing a Wednesday night session, and I'm doing a game training session, which means I'm actually preparing for our first game.
Yeah.
So I started doing like a tactical session, and we had half a field each. The under 18s had half a field, and the under 16s, the cadets had a field, half a field each. So I was doing a game training exercise, how we're going to set up, and within how the technical director wanted it. And after the session, this is the thing that just got me like my shoulders out straight away. He called the coaches in, like the boys had gone inside to have a shower and gone up to the residence in the cafeteria to eat with the chef, and he goes, "Don't worry about videotaping the warm-up sessions. You need to videotape Simon's tactical sessions. This is what I want to see. This is what we need to be putting on social media. This is what we need to be putting on YouTube channel." So you can imagine me.
Yeah.
I'm this Australian coach on a Wednesday night. He's there standing there watching like this. So my shoulders grew, and I'm like, wow, if I'm doing this against these coaches and he's enjoying my work, well, obviously as a player too, you coach with confidence. So just from there it grew, and I grew a lot as myself, having this technical director that was starting, just come in and help us out because we love the numbers and we'll give you $200 to a proper contract and a proper salary. It was just a whirlwind experience over 4 or 5 weeks, and just on the salaries too, just so people know, like I was working full time. I was working 6.5 days a week. I was loving my work, and my salary was 18,500 euros. So that's about 30,000 Australian dollars.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, the cost of living is a lot different over there.
Yeah,
but it's relevant to where you're living as well. If you live in a nice area, it's more expensive, and we chose to live in a nice area. So all these stigmas, people think I'm going to go coach in Europe and make $1 million. It's or set up yourself. It doesn't always work like that. I knew it was not going to be.
Well, that's pretty much the equivalent to what someone would get as a part-time gig here.
Well, probably coaches get more than a coaching NPL. And it's part-time, right? But the opportunity was there, and we had some perks. Like I had all the gear and I had food. Like in the res, like you live there most, and the analysis sessions and things like that. But he was there for 3 months, Ruben, the technical director. And then after 3 months, he called us all in and he goes, "Listen, I'm just letting you know. I'm letting you know before I let the players know," because everyone loved him. He was a really likable guy. Because I'm moving on. And I'm like, oh, crap, just as I'm getting to know, like, there was no problem with my contracts. My team had started the competition, but I'd built this real good rapport with him. And he goes, "I'm just letting you know I'm moving on." This is Tuesday night, Tuesday morning. I'm moving on. One of my, he was part of a coaching group that had coached at Red Bull Salzburg, Watford, Wolverhampton, all these clubs. He goes, "We're moving to Celta Vigo." This is in La Liga. Yeah. So Tuesday, he's saying his goodbyes to us, and I'm moving on with head coach. That was the Tuesday night. Just by sheer coincidence, his first game was at the Camp Nou that Saturday, 3 days later against Barcelona. Oh wow! So my technical director had gone from, from this international full-time academy residence to coaching at the Camp Nou. Yeah. 3 days, Saturday night. I'll never forget it. Saturday night, and they lost their first game. Like the coach of the previous coach had got sacked, so new coach comes in. They lost 4-0. Messi scored a couple, but it's funny how football works and the networks you make.
So you all went down and watched?
Well, I had a game that night.
Oh, you couldn't? Yeah.
My games sometimes are at 9 o'clock at night, just with European lifestyle and things like that. So we couldn't watch, but I think some of the under 16s had an earlier game, and they, Ruben sorted them out with some tickets, and they were at the Camp Nou. But it was like 10 kilometres from where we lived. It was very close. So
that's unreal. But that period you were there was around 2019 when you first got the job there, and that's when life changed for everyone in the world with pandemic coming in. What was that like for you to experience that in Spain?
Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. And it left a lot of scars for my family, that's for sure. Scars that we're still probably recovering from. We were living the life. We were living the lifestyle. My son's learned a new language. He's loving his football. Yeah. He's living and breathing because he's a little footballer as well. And my wife's working, and we're enjoying our lifestyle. We had the best experience with our lifestyle. And then all of a sudden, we could see this virus start moving out of China and through Europe, and we could actually look at the map. I'll never forget looking at the map, spreading through Europe, through Italy, down across into parts of France, and then into Catalonia. Parts of not parts of Spain, depending on who you speak to, Catalonia, but parts of that part of Europe. And it started coming through, and everyone was in denial. I'll never forget. Everyone was in denial. It's okay. It's going to be nothing. But then one Wednesday night, we had our final training session, and it was a beautiful night. Beautiful night. Wednesday night, the S&C coach was training him up. We were having a good session, and then we went to bed. That was Wednesday night. We finished about 8 o'clock at night. Then we had a session at 7:30 the next morning.
Yeah.
So we trained a lot. It was a good little system and program we had. And the next morning we started setting up the training session. It was a Thursday morning. We started setting up, and then our phone rang, and it was the owner of the academy saying, "Get every kid off the field, put them in the residence, and lock it down. They're not to go anywhere."
Jeez.
Because we'd received overnight notification that Spain were going to close its borders. When I say close the borders, I mean you can't. If you're not out of the country by midnight, you need an exemption to leave the country in the next three days. So we locked down. We locked the boys down, cancelled the training session. They all were in the residence, and all their parents are starting to call. And this is at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. By 12 o'clock that day, there were kids already on planes back home to their countries: Mexico, Brazil, Germany, Ukraine. Their parents had just got them out on whatever planes, whatever means, to get them out of the country, because they could see that it was going into lockdown. They could see what the virus was doing in China and parts of Italy. So it was an absolutely scary, scary time, because the kids were scared. They didn't know what's going on. Their parents are scared because they're all over the country seeing that Spain's locking the borders. It's a hard lockdown. If you're stuck here, you're not going anywhere. And for the next 2 or 3 days, us coaches just did shifts and shifts of getting players to the airport. It was like an absolute war zone. So we had a couple of company vans, which were 10 or 12 seaters, and we're driving them at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. We're doing rotating shifts just to help get these kids out, dropping the kids. My shift, I did a Saturday morning, 4:30 a.m., I'll never forget. Got the kids to the airport. There was some Mexicans and Americans, and got them out of the country so they could, it was a scary time when it first started, that's for sure.
So when you're focusing on these kids, obviously they don't have their parents there, so you're kind of like a father figure.
Yeah, we are, absolutely. We see them every day. They're training in the morning, they're going to school, or they're going to school and they're training in the afternoons or evenings, plus video analysis. So you see them all day around the residence, and when they come back from school, absolutely they are. And you build a bit of relationship with their parents as well through WhatsApp. That's how everyone talks over there on WhatsApp. So, but just professionally enough that, the parents can trust you as the coach, because our games used to be streamed live, so you could watch our games, so the parents could see what was going on and all this type of thing, making sure your kids are being looked after. But it did get scary. Yeah.
So it's a very tough time. You're looking after these kids,
Yeah.
But you're worrying about these kids from all these families around the world. But your family's at home. What was it like did you have enough time to look after them, or even think about coming home to the rest of your family?
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, had come over with his children for a trip the week before the lockdown.
Oh wow.
And it was planned for him to come. We had family and friends for the couple of years come visit and stay with us.
Yeah.
Barney Smith, the Adelaide Commons coach, came over for a couple of weeks too, so he got to experience firsthand what it was like in the Catalan football and in Barcelona. But he'd come over for this once-in-a-lifetime trip with his kids and found himself in lockdown after 4 days, so he couldn't go anywhere until his plane left. So he had an exemption to leave in the first week of lockdown. But a once in a lifetime trip for him, it turned into a bit of a catastrophe. He could only just stay home and hang with us. But we had ourselves, we had our neighbours, we had our friends. But Australia's seen lockdowns especially in Sydney and in Melbourne, and they were harsh. And I really mean that. I know they were harsh, but the lockdown we went through was something out of the ordinary. Like it was apocalyptic. Like the grass was grown over in the parks. There was drones flying over to make sure no one was leaving their houses. You have the military on the streets with microphones, stay inside, and stuff you see in those apocalyptic movies. To go to the shop, there's only one person from the house was allowed to go out. And it was at a certain time of day. Like oldies could go from 9 till 10, and then it was very, very regimented, but very strict for the first 3 or 4 months of the lockdown. And we found that when they started to try open up a little bit, it started to become a little bit warmer in Europe. And some of the horrific stories we've seen and heard about a lot of old people being left for dead because they weren't looked after, and they'd go back to nursing homes and just find mass bodies of, like, because they died from the virus, or, because people were too scared to leave their house, and it just went into lockdown. All of the wages got frozen in Spain, so everyone's wage, even the Barcelona players, their wages got frozen and looked after by the government. They were paying a certain amount to everyone, because of the pandemic. So it was just a really scary time. We found ourselves exercising in our garage to keep sane, or exercising in our garage, just trying to keep a routine. But you're waking up every day, and it's kind of Groundhog Day. And after 7 or 8 months of it, and we knew it'd take a couple of years at least for it to get better again. 7 or 8 months into the lockdown, my wife and I just said, you know what, I think we need to just reevaluate our own health. My son at the time was 11 years old, and he was homeschooling with his school in Spain. It wasn't healthy, and we just needed to look at the bigger picture. It was just unfortunate that the pandemic hit at the time it did. We got a couple of good years in, but we decided it was time to come home, and we made that agonising decision to pack up and leave after probably after about a year of the pandemic.
Yeah. How long was it? Was it starting to get back to normal back then in Spain, or was it still a while away?
No, it was still in lockdown. The last Christmas we had we moved into an Airbnb in a place called Cubayes, which is just a little province on the water, for the last 6 weeks before we could get a plane out. And if people remember, Australia were only letting in a certain amount of people, so tickets to get into the country were very scarce, and there was priorities and a limitation on the flight we ended up getting on had 72 people on it from Spain to Doha, from Barcelona to Doha to Adelaide. 72 people in a 400. So I mean, it was just the amount of people the government letting in, and then you're doing the quarantine. But our last Christmas, we went we were at a beautiful spot, but it was just everything was closed. But the restaurants started to open up for Christmas lunch. So we went to this beautiful little restaurant. The restaurant was open from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. We had to sit outside. It was cold, but it was a beautiful, crystal clear day. But we sat outside. So there's probably 70, 80 people in this restaurant all sitting outside, social distancing. And then at 3 o'clock, they got to shut up, and everything just went blank again. You couldn't leave your home. Jeez. So you go out for this summer, for your Christmas lunch. And it just made me feel so alone, knowing, how tough it was. Not just for us, because we were preparing to come back home, but this restaurant's opening up for 3 hours. We had our lunch just to get out.
Yep.
And then, we had a great lunch and that, but then you've got to sort of take your Christmas party back home. And the Christmas party you have back home is in an Airbnb. Yeah, you're on the water, but you've got no family, you've got no friends. You feel very isolated. As much social media and Instagram and all that you can do and try to keep people thinking that you're in a good space. It was a really, really dark time that, we're probably still coming back from, because it does have a big effect, and it's not just us. It's for everyone. But over that period of time in that lockdown, and the last couple of months when we decided to come home, I started, what am I going to do football-wise?
Yep.
And I turned a lot of heads in the World Game, and a lot of people were calling me, wanting interviews before the lockdown. So I knew I'd sort of started creating a bit of a profile. But we needed to come back to Adelaide, and we needed to get the family set up. And I always wanted to get back into the women's game, and I could see that, I was a bit burnt from the men's game, from my previous experiences. So I needed a different avenue. And Salisbury Inter, I knew the president, and she was so keen to get me to the club. So I started doing my research, and Fridays at 1 o'clock in Barcelona was like 8 o'clock Friday night. So I started watching on the YouTube channel all of the WMPL games.
Yeah. And
I was looking around, I'm thinking, oh, geez, Salisbury Inter got a good team, and they had Emily Condon, like the team that I've got now, pretty much, or a lot of the youngsters that have come through. But I thought they just needed their coach was moving on too, and the opportunity just arose, and I thought, I'm going to take it up, and the Women's World Cup's around the corner. I think it's a good time if I'm going to go back home to get back into the women's game. And I inherited a good team, a team that finished second for a couple of years or third. I just knew they, in my opinion, with all due respect to the previous coaches, they probably just need that little bit more that I knew I could provide to get them over the line to win their first trophy. And the squad I inherited, yes, it was a very good squad, but it doesn't guarantee you trophies. I brought in 1 or 2 players from the team it has, and last year we were fortunate enough to win every trophy there is available in the women's game. Yeah,
what was that like to coach in the women's game? Because we know it's a little bit of a difference between men and the women's game in obviously with funding and also the resources they have. Yep. What was it like? Did you find it a bit of a struggle, or was it?
It's always going to be a struggle, unfortunately. It is, but you know what? Footballers are footballers, and my girls especially will tell you, they want to be treated as footballers. So they want honesty, they want transparency. Don't treat us as we're not equal to a male football. And I knew that anyway from working in the W League with some of the American girls that came over and the local girls. So, I went in there with very open-minded that I could do good things with the team.
Yep.
And doing my research for a couple of months in lockdown, I knew what I needed to get this club over the line. They'd never won a major trophy. And they are a club that's on the uprise to wanting to be successful and be a bit of a powerhouse at this time. So we took the opportunity up and we won. The first thing we won was the cup final against Metro. I think 3-1 in the middle of last year, and even that was a real challenge. Metro are a really strong club, really coached well last year, and the club were really happy just with that. They said to me that night, "Let's party. That's it. If you win the league, great." And I said, well, to the club, with all due respect, we've got a team. I know what you say. You've got the chip off your shoulder and we've got the first trophy for the club. But I said, we've got a team that can really, push to win more stuff this year. So, we just realigned the goals for the club, not the girls. The girls were pretty focused. They knew they wanted to win everything last year. But I just said, look, the club, you need to expect a bit more than just one trophy. So we really pushed hard and we made some sacrifices as a club, as a coaching group, and most importantly, as the players. We pushed forward. We won the minor premiership, and we won the grand final too last year. So we won the treble and started this year by winning the pre-season cup. So all the 4 trophies within a 18-month space that are on offer in the women's league, the club have got a hold of or have won. So and it's tough to stay at the top, but it was good.
The women's game is pretty lucky as well because with the men's game, you get some really good players that have played in the local. National leagues in the A-League or played overseas and they come here to finish off their career. But you get a lot of the players in their peak, like you were coaching Chilean international with Cotier as well.
Yeah. So Cotier Rojas was at the club for a couple of years before she's moved on to other scenarios that we knew were going to happen.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't the way we planned it would happen, but look, that's football. She's moved on to greener pastures for herself. And look, she's got to take every opportunity. She's 35, so I understand that. But yeah, she's one of many, many good players that are experienced players. I look at my team, even just if I talk about my team this year, I've got Nicole Calder, who in my opinion can do a job at the W League level. Chantel Ryder, who's just gone down with an injury, has played at the W League level. I lost, and the players last year that I lost or moved on were all at that kind of level of experience and that kind of will to really accomplish something and drive the younger players on.
It's fantastic to see that there's these big names coming back into the WNPL, which helps improve the younger girls as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. As we can see, last year we had a strong squad. West Adelaide had a very strong squad. NTC always has the creme de la creme of the young players in a full-time program. They're always going to be strong. Adelaide City is strong. They've got some really good players. So yeah, it does help when they do come back. There is a bit of a gap with probably the top 4 or 5 to the bottom, but as recently as you can see, my team lost on the weekend to West Torrens Bacalla 3-2. It was probably a nothing game in regards to my team finishing on the ladder, but West Torrens Bacalla had to beat us.
Yep.
And they came out with the right attitude and beat us, and we're not happy about it, but the gap is closing, and some of the teams that are down the bottom are improving, and the clubs are getting better at their recruitment and coaching and development of their players. So good on them.
So now you're in the women's game, but you've coached a lot when your early days with the men's game.
Yep.
Obviously, you played in men's football as well. So is there any? Do you want to go back into that avenue, or is women's football where you want to? Looking to stay.
It's 1 year at a time.
Yeah.
I'm happy where I am right now.
Yeah.
We're just about to embark on a final series, so let's see how we go there. What the future holds, I don't know. Coaching for me is coaching men or women. I'm a professional coach in a semi-professional environment, at this stage. But, obviously coaching at Adelaide before and overseas, I know what it takes to be in a professional environment. But maybe one day I'll get back into it. But maybe one day I might be happy just to sit upstairs in a boardroom and look at running a club too. And that's something that really does interest me. And I've got all these ideas on how I can see a club run and how I want a club to be run. So I think that's something that really interests me in the next couple of years, or maybe getting involved getting involved with the powers that be at the federation, and you know, I really think they need some ex-players in there to probably stamp some authority on some direction on how the competitions, especially the women's competition, I think can maybe move forward and be an even more attractive product.
Is this for the local federations or the national?
No, not
football
local federation.
Yeah.
If I'm going to stay here, I mean, I love South Australia, I love Adelaide. And why not grow such a... I mean, our NPL at the moment, for men's especially, is such a strong competition. It's got fantastic coaches. It's got really good players. And I think the structure of it is really well. It'd be great to see that roll over to the women's. It's always going to be a work in progress because of funding. But I think the Women's World Cup coming here is going to really grow the women's game the next couple of years, and we're going to get a lot of wins. So we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, and you obviously had that academy experience over in Spain.
Yep.
But now you're kind of still got that junior coaching experience with Blackfriars. You do the played in the first 11 soccer, which is in college football. I didn't realise how big it was here in South Australia.
Yeah.
But you coach Blackfriars. What's that been like to get back to coaching juniors again?
Oh, look. It's about as young as I'd like to coach, as the 16, 17, 18-year-old category of ages. I can't see myself being any younger than that. I just think there's better coaches out there than me for that, to be honest with you. That's being it's being totally honest. But it's been fantastic. I mean, I didn't know much about the collegiate and the colleges and private schools and how their football programs work until this year. They put a lot of money into their sports programs, a lot of the private schools. And as we've seen last week, we played our intercol, which is our match against being at Blackfriars against Christian Brothers College. So it was Catanzaro versus Karuska, and it was good off the bench. You know, we're two well-respected people, I guess, in the local league, and Marcello coaches my son in his academy. So it was a good game, and good crowd, good atmosphere. I know you called it. So you could see the pride these boys have in playing that one-off game against some of their arch rivals at other schools. It
was cool to see because I've never been to a game. I come from a public school, so I had no idea what college football was like, or it didn't even know it was a thing. And coming there and actually having that NPL experience of calling. There's some NPL players actually in the squad.
It was, yeah. Well, that's credit to some of the NPL coaches playing some of the youngsters that deserve an opportunity, especially the Christian Brothers, the CBC team at college, which is coached by Marcello. They had 2 or 3 that played for Metro Stars on the weekend in the semi-finals. So, but if you want to talk about my team, which I care about more. I mean, I had a bunch of kids that were still playing JPL and JSL. Some of them, so they're younger, but they went out and they stuck to a game plan, and with a bit of luck, winning the game that we weren't expected to. We probably expected to lose 7 or 8-0, to be honest, and we're winning 1-0 after 60 minutes, and an unfortunate red card changes the game. But. It was a fantastic experience to be part of. Yeah,
and it was good fun. And there was one of the Blackfriars students had a saxophone on pitch side. Yeah. So getting into it, they were chanting. And even the couple of the boys at CBC were their celebrations. I think one of them had a wrestler's mask as well.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of celebrations, but they've got pride. They've got pride for their school. They've got pride for their colours, and and it reflected the way the game was played.
Yeah, I love it. It's good. Do you reckon coaching 17, 18-year-olds another future thing you would like to look into?
Like I said, that's the age I did coach in at Adelaide United, but overseas too with Captiva in the academy in the league I played in at that level, the under 18, under 19. It could be, but I'm not saying I'm going to do this or do that. Yeah. It's got to be the right opportunity, and I've learnt from my experiences in the past. You've got to pick that right opportunity, otherwise it can actually shoot you in the foot. So you've got to be calculated with what you choose.
Your career's been fantastic to go through. I don't even think we've touched it everywhere because there's still a lot of areas we could talk about, but there's only so much we can talk about in this podcast.
I've probably
as well.
given you enough. Hopefully, I've given you some interesting stories for some of the people that listen to the podcast from back in my playing days and my journey overseas.
No, it's fantastic. I really enjoyed hearing the background, especially the time in Spain, which was you saw the best and the worst times over there, which is great to share. But before I let you go, got to do the final questions I do to every guest.
Sure.
The kicking it questions. I'm sure you're across this one.
Yep, absolutely.
So the first one is, who would you love to kick it with on the park? Anyone in the world?
Oh, well, for me, it'd be Lionel Messi now. I've grown up, not grown up, but I've watched him in the last 15 years just dominate football. It'd be great to share a field with him.
Well, you got to be in similar...
I used to go watch him every second weekend, which, most people can't say they've done. So I used to go watch him every second weekend, just at the stadium.
What was it like watching him from the grandstands? Was it like really amazing to see him just right there. I've never had the opportunity to do that.
Oh, it is amazing. But then you know what? You kind of become a little bit. What's the word? Like you
used
get
to
used
it?
to,
Yeah.
used to it. But then like Tuesday nights, I just pop down to the stadium and watch a Champions League game, and it got too easy, I guess. Like you just expect it, So, but it was amazing watching him firsthand.
But getting to kick it with him on the park will be amazing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And who would you love to kick it with on a Saturday night? 2 people in the world? Anyone? So someone locally, someone in the world.
Oh, look, no, I'll stay local.
Both,
obviously, I'll I love time with my wife.
Yep.
We have a good time when we go out together, and and the other probably too is my brothers in Sydney who they're some of my biggest fans, and I'm their biggest fans as well. They play just local soccer, but we follow each other's journeys. I love having a good night out with my 2 younger brothers as well.
Oh, keep it local, keep it family. Yeah, there
absolutely.
You go. Why not? It's love the family aspect of it.
Yeah.
What about Barney Smith though? Because I know you.
He's my neighbour.
Is he your neighbour? Is he?
Yeah, we live a couple of doors down. Our families are very close and been very close for the last decade. So we spend enough time with each other. So
you play with him. You've been coached by him. He's
been my assistant coach as well at Parra Hills and at Burke's. He's been my assistant coach. So
he linked up you and your wife pretty much, and now you live next door to him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Andy helped me. We didn't even touch on when I played at Canberra Cosmos on loan. He was working for Canberra Cosmos and got me a hotel to stay in. There's all different scenarios with Barney. So
and he's a really good person in the local football and very passionate about youngsters as well.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's good. And you need these type of people, and most importantly, you need those type of coaches in the local league.
Yeah. Well, I want to get you back again because I want to touch you obviously on the Canberra Cosmos and your time at West Torrens. But there's heaps to talk about still.
Yeah.
I love this. But thank you so much for joining me in this episode, and I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, and it's been great.
That was the head coach of WNPL side Salisbury Inter, Simon Catanzaro. Make sure you subscribe to Kicking It Local wherever you get your podcasts so you can get a taste of the SA football community. Plus, follow Kicking It Local SA on Instagram and Twitter so you don't miss any of the action. See you soon!